Like to learn to relax.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I already have the video going. So, anybody else have something that they would like to learn? Yes.
I'd like to learn how, when you're hit with a stressful situation, most people are here and they might go up that much. I go up to here and I want to learn how to tone that down.
How to stop that trigger action.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of something that triggers you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Recently, about 2 weeks ago, I was out shopping, got a text from my son. The pipes in the upstairs bathroom are frozen. So I had to rush home, but immediately, like I was very calm, I was having a good time, boom, I was done.
Okay. So, something outside of your control happens, and your anxiety shot through the roof. I know the answer to this, but did that make it any easier to deal with all the problems?
Oh, no.
No. Okay, so we know that that kind of anxiety doesn't really work, and you, that's why you don't want to have that knee-jerk reaction to, oh my God.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you is that you probably have a very creative mind. So you didn't just think, and maybe you don't realize this, but you probably didn't just think to yourself, oh gee, the pipes are frozen. No, you saw them bursting, the house is flooded, you now have to find the contractors to fix. So creative people usually are people who have anxiety. I have yet to find somebody who doesn't have creativity there. So basically, you created an image out in the future of all the terrible things that might happen.
Oh, yeah.
No wonder your anxiety was up, because and this is the beginning of the talk, thank you very much. So, hi,
We can't turn it off, but we can try to lower it. Did you?
if you could, yeah, I think I did, but you can see if you could lower it even more if you can.
All right.
So, get my train of thought back. So basically, when you go out to the future like that and create those images, we can also learn to create different ones. Because those images, what is worry for? Worry is to prepare you for something. But when you create an image that hasn't even happened yet, then it makes you less focused on what you have to do. So anyone who has anxiety is a creative person. Thank you. Okay. I was going to say something else, but it flew out of my mind, so I'll get it back. You'll ask me again later. So what I will say about that, anxiety, does everybody here have anxiety stuff? So we're in the right room. Well, how come you came? Oh, she dragged you. Okay. Well, maybe you'll get something exciting from this today.
No, I look at it as useful. Any skills are important.
Absolutely. So we'll see if we can make it important for you, though.
Oh, it
too.
will be important. I'm looking forward to it.
So anytime we create stress or anxiety in our lives, it has either to do with the future image you're creating, thought, image, or something that happened in the past that you're bringing in. The unconscious, oh, that's what I was going to say. The unconscious mind doesn't differentiate between a real event and what you just made up. That's why we're able to get that jolt of adrenaline. Now, let me tell you why I believe this is the case. A long time ago, in caveman days, if there was a lion stepping on a twig, that caveman had to get home fast. And he didn't have the time to say, gee whiz, maybe that was just a little garden snake. He had to get out of there. His adrenaline response, fight, flight, kicked in immediately. Those are the people who we are descended from, if you believe in the caveman, because they're the ones who survived. But what's happening today, you get the trigger, get out of here, fight, flight. But there's no lion going to eat you. But we respond as if we better get out of the situation first, and then we could slowly and calmly think about it. So part of the stress, anxiety reaction is about that old inner response that was there to protect us. But if anyone here has panic disorder, it's kind of out of whack. It's way overdoing the job. Okay? Anybody else? Because the more you ask, the better this is going to be. Anybody else have something that you really would like me to talk about or help with?
How do you like turn off? Like at the end of the day, just turn off so you can.
Okay. How to turn off all that mind chatter going on? What did somebody say?
She gets red.
There's a marker.
What did she get?
Red.
Marker.
Oh, yeah, because the other you couldn't see it all. I realized I was writing and my pen was not writing. Okay. I just flew in from Florida and we've had so many delays that whereas my usually preparedness is quite, today is less prepared. I mean, I have everything in my brain, but my pens aren't all the same. So, how to turn off that mind chatter. When we do the standing meditation for release of negative emotions, that is one technique. I have another one that I like a lot that I use for people who have trouble sleeping, and it's called the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise, and it works amazing for sleep. No more insomnia with that one. And it's all a mind exercise. Again, if you do anxiety, you'll be good at all these exercises because you're already doing hypnosis, but you're doing it in the negative direction, okay? So usually I get a question about hypnosis because maybe you know it and maybe you don't. I am a hypnotherapist, meaning I practice hypnosis. Did anybody know that from the... Oh, you did, okay. Now, so what is hypnosis, okay? The first thing I want, again, with people who have anxiety, who usually come to see me for my private practice, they go, I don't want to do something embarrassing. I don't want to stand on my head. I don't want to cluck like a chicken. This is what I do is medical hypnosis, so it's not clucking, it's not stage hypnosis. But where people have gotten that idea of this hypnotist who can make them do things is a long time ago there was a movie, I think it was called Svengali, and he made women do his bidding with his great hypnotic. And then, of course, we have the stage hypnotist who makes people dance like ballerinas. So it seems. The reality is, even the best stage hypnotist can't make you do something that is not in your value system. So if you've never wanted to dance like a ballerina on the stage, you will not do that. And has anybody here ever been to a stage hypnosis show? If you have, what you'll notice, I'm just keeping track of the time so I'll be sure I get everything in. You'll notice that sometimes there is a woman or a man up there who's kind of quiet. So he'll say to her, and it was a woman that I saw, he said to her, you know what? Just pretend this glass of water, and he put her into trance. Now this glass of water is a really heavy-duty drink, liquor. And every time you take a sip, you're going to feel more and more giddy. Now, I'm a really good hypnotic subject. I'm sitting in the back in the audience, and what I drink is water. I don't drink, really. And every time I'm taking a sip, I'm going like, I just want to laugh. I can't laugh. He'll make me come up there, because I'm not a person who likes to be on stage. So I'm like, Audrey, do not laugh. But because the suggestion was in my value system, I like to laugh. It hit me, and all of a sudden, she's not laughing there, but I want to laugh. So it was in my value system, therefore the suggestion went right into me. Okay? Now, if he would have told me, you're going to go stand on your head, I probably can't even do that. So I wouldn't do it. I would say, no, I don't want to do that. So the hypnosis we're going to do today is called self-hypnosis, meaning that you are choosing to use your own mind to use it in a way that's beneficial for you. Okay? And you could always choose not to do that. So has anybody here been hypnotized? Oh, we've got a couple. Okay, how was your experience? I'm always curious.
It was good. I did quit smoking and
And you quit?
it's been like 11 years.
what she did, if she did smoking hypnosis, it's called classical hypnosis. It's a lot different than medical hypnosis, but it works for 1/10 of a percent of the people who go in. She was one of the 1/10.
Well, my husband went a year after I did it, and he's been 10 years with us.
Cool. So both of you, if everything is in alignment for your quitting and there's no hidden needs, you're going to stop. Somebody else said they were? Yeah, how was your?
It was interesting. It was, my husband had taken a medical hypnosis class, and he thought he'd try it on me. And I got very, very relaxed to the point where I kind of felt like I was floating, and then the whole thing struck me as being really funny, and I started to laugh and, came right back down to earth.
Right.
But it was nice.
So you found it very easy to go into a trance state. Who else said they were? Yes.
I went for insomnia, actually. It was wonderful. We started out just doing arm levitation just to kind of see what my brain could do for
Right,
itself,
right.
and then moved on so that I could figure out how to get myself to sleep when I wanted to.
So what do you think worked in that for you?
I think it was that, I realized I have control over so many things I didn't think I had control over.
So he was a really good hypnotist and recognized your values, that you have control, and once you realize that, you figure it out. Great. Anybody else? Anybody here have a little bit of fear of hypnosis? You should get at least one. No? Okay. Then I don't have to go into what I won't do because you're all cool with that. So here's the second question. Why use hypnosis? Why not just use cognitive therapy, changing the thoughts? Have you ever heard of cognitive therapy? Yes. That's where I knew this was going to happen. Jerry, you might be my little holder of this then. Yeah, this is not to be completely. If you wouldn't mind, you could just hold that. And if you hold that. So there's 3 ways that we can create anxiety. We can create it with our mind. If you wouldn't mind just holding that. I appreciate it. Yeah, just enjoy. I'm going to have you come a little closer here. Perfect. Thank you. So there's 3 ways. One way is using your thoughts. One way is body sensations, which is the chemicals, adrenaline, that go through your body. And the last way is old emotions, stuffed emotions, memories, trauma. When you bring them back into the present, it creates anxiety. Now, let me give you an example. So does anybody have an example? We have one where the pipes are bursting. We could use that. Does anybody else have an example of how they create anxiety? Of the situation you had where you had anxiety or stress or fear? Yes?
Driving.
Driving.
See, I don't know if it's anxiety or it's panic.
It's panic, it's panic.
Oh, okay.
So basically, when you're in the car, all of a sudden you feel what? Or you say what to yourself?
Well, it only happens if I'm on a major highway,
That's right.
295,
Yeah,
or a
you
bridge.
Could drive you could drive in the neighborhood, but give you a bridge or 295 or any turnpike type of thing,
Heart.
pounding.
Yeah.
So she starts in the body with the heart pounding, right? Now I would guarantee you, since you're creative too, because you do anxiety, that there is a thought that goes through your mind. So what's the thought that? So she starts here in the body. Then she moves into the thought. What's the thought that goes through your mind?
You're going to go off the bridge into the water. You're going to crash.
You're gonna. I'm not even gonna write it down. But that's exactly what happens. She gets a cognition, a thought that says, "Oh my God, what if?" I bet it sounds like what if. What if I ride off the bridge? Only people who panic just sort of do that. We will never ride off that bridge. We're careful people. But what if I do? So that creates. What happens in your emotions as you? What if I drive off the bridge? What happens emotionally? What do you feel?
Like I'm getting ready to just pass out. Like
You feel like, okay, so she goes back here to the body. I'm going to pass out. And do you see how it's going back and forth between the thoughts? I'm going to pass out. What if I go over the bridge? body starts. If you never had a problem, this is a great example because so many people have the driving phobias. I used to have it, so that's how I know it personally. If you never had a problem driving and you never had an experience, would you have these thoughts? If every time you drove over a bridge, it was like now I do, la-dee-da, get over the bridge. No, it was a bridge. If that was how you always drove, and you had no memory of ever being afraid, would that make a difference? She's so vested in her panic that she can't even imagine it being different, right?
Right.
You poor thing. Yeah. Let me go. Anybody have any questions on how we create?
Ma'am?
Yes.
I used to have, I guess, anxiety pertaining to heights and whatnot, which were worsened after I parachuted, because I hate heights beyond, but I would just allow myself to think one step at a time. And I find what works best for me is, the best way I can analyze is if you get hurt, instead of tensing up and feeling the pain that you're experiencing when you crush your finger or do something, you kind of relax into the pain and just accept it.
Yeah,
And I find that with something like that, I recognize that my issue is control. And what I find that helps me maintain my calmness is intellectualizing things and saying, okay, if in this occasion, how will I cope with it? And I imagine different scenarios so that if it hits me, I'm already predisposed to react accordingly.
So you do some preparatory cognitive work to prepare yourself in case you know what your steps are. You're going to already have your rationalizations.
Plan.
Plan of action. Panic disorder, which fear of heights is some part of panic disorder. But panic disorder with driving, and I could pretty much see her face is like, yeah, right, I'm going to think up my plan, and that's going to really help me. And it won't. You know why? Because panic disorder, let me get to my next piece of paper. Just hold that up. Panic disorder, if you think of the tip of an iceberg, okay, the symptoms are being pushed from underneath. Yours was a little different. Okay, somehow you were able to, which is a miracle and wonderful, you were able with your mind to stop the symptoms. Or maybe you didn't stop the symptoms, but you were able to talk yourself out of them.
I'm one of those people that I get such a rush of adrenaline that truthfully when I'm the most pumped up is when I'm the most calm. And I'm very focused on everything that happens to me. And it would just take a very little thing to push me over the edge where I'm going to hurt somebody. To be honest with you, it depends
Like
on the
hurt somebody,
circumstances.
like, you mean
but
anger?
I'm just saying, like, if, for example, if somebody irritates you,
Yes.
and you, in terms of allowing yourself to let go of the frustration, so that you don't become, so it doesn't become amplified, so that you're not cursing, you're not swearing, you're not demonstrating hostility. You act in a calm manner, you moderate your tone, you speak appropriately. But the truth is that just beneath the surface, I'm amped up. And I am trying to shut myself down so that I don't flip.
I didn't plant her. This is exactly right. Thank you for that. Basically, what you're saying is you have a lot going on under the surface. And you know it. So the only way to protect yourself from reacting is to damp it down.
Right.
Put this nice heavy blanket over it.
And state your boundaries and say, hey,
Here's
step
the
away.
problem with, we'll call this a string of pearls of emotion. So I'm not talking about you anymore, I'm talking about just other people. So let's say you have a lot of anger in your life. The people have just done things that are hurtful, not fair, irritating. But you're a nice person and you don't want to volcano out and scream at somebody or hurt them, as you say. So what happens is every time an event happens, you damp it down by stuffing it. Okay? No, it's working for you, so we don't change anything when
I
it's
don't
working.
necessarily say it's working, but it's
Okay,
there.
thank you. So basically, and she's just taking me exactly where I want to go. If you have a whole string of emotions, whether it is fear, panic, anger, sadness, if you keep them here and you keep stuffing them, eventually one day, the little pin drops and out comes this volcano, and then you go, oh my God, why did I overact later?
Mhm.
But you're so afraid, especially if you have a lot. Oh my God, if I overreact, I'm going to kill somebody. So it's never safe. So you keep piling these on. This sometimes, I'm not saying for you, but this sometimes will create physical illness because we're stuffing our emotions in our body. Now, the good news is, no matter what these are here, there's a way of actually, hypnotically, here's the past, all the things that happened in the past, here's the present, here's the future. Hypnotically, you go above it. You've already had the trauma of all of that stuff. You go back in time, and there you are at age 3, and this, I'm just making this up because it feels right, but at age 3, something happened that was, you were too little to get angry. I'm not saying for you again. Maybe it was a parent, somebody you needed, and it wasn't safe to be furious. Now, I've seen my grandchildren get into a fury because it's safe. Their parents are going to keep loving them even when they, but not everybody's that lucky. So this little kid, in the significant emotional event, learns stuff your emotions, because if you don't, it's not going to work for you. They're going to either beat you up, or it's not going to be safe. Yes?
Sure. The thing my dad always used to say is, kids are meant to be seen and not heard, and, keep your mouth shut and your ears open. So I think that that's a subliminal or an overt lesson that's always been taught to me.
So for a person who gets that kind, thank you so much for sharing. For a person who gets that kind of message, children are to be seen and not heard. The belief system is I don't count. I'm not picking on you. It's I don't count. I'm not worthy of showing my emotions. Usually these are the people I see in my private practice because they're really nice people who are stuffed all their emotion, and instead now they have anxiety disorder. Because anxiety disorder, if you have it, let me tell you the good news about it. With anxiety, did you ever see those pressure cookers that when they get hot they go ch-ch-ch-ch and little steam comes out? The way I look at anxiety disorder, my reframe of it, is anxiety disorder is like the pressure cooker in the body that says, okay, there's too much piling up on her. Let me let it out as a little bit of anxiety. At least she'll stay safe and healthy. Okay? So I want to get back to the bridge. When I was talking before about if you never had a fear, if every time you drove over a bridge from the time you started driving, you were like happy, like many people I know. Not me, I wasn't. Then, when you drove over the bridge, you would have been like, la-di-da. Okay, no, that's not it for you. Okay, so I know for you that there's some stuffed emotions in your past. Okay? I don't know what kind of traumas happened, but there's something. Okay? Am I kind of getting a little
I never had an accident or anything,
I'm
and
not
I
talking
used
about
to.
car accidents.
Oh, I
Fear
used to
of
drive.
driving is never really about fear of driving. It's a symptom on
Do
the
you
tip
think
of the
it's
iceberg.
about fear of like speed or being out of control or something like that?
Okay. I'm going
Or
to
the
answer.
unknown? What could happen if you?
No,
react
I'm going to
poorly?
answer it a little different. I will answer it in the way I fix it. When you clean out the emotions that have been stuffed in your life, hurt, sadness, anger, and you pull the string out and all the pearls of those emotions drop away and they're no longer there, the fear of driving is just now we can fix it just by the thoughts. If she tried to do your method with her thoughts, she'd just frustrate herself. Because every time she got to a bridge, she'd say like, oh, I know I'm not going to drive over the bridge. I know I'm going to be okay, but I'm still too scared to go. And then you get frustrated. So then you get more anger because you're angry now at yourself. Why can't I do what everyone else can do? Make sense? Okay. So hypnotically, we're not going to do this technique today. But hypnotically, sometimes when I do a demo in a group, we will do something right there in the group and we will release. So are you curious how we get to release these? Anybody want to know? Or I'll go to the next piece.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Do you want to? Okay. So basically, I'll use an example. I had this man come to see me. He had rage issues and he had panic disorder so severe, he even found it difficult to get from where he was to my office. I mean, really severe. When we tracked him back in time, he was, I think, somewhere around a year and a half, 2 years old. This is a memory that came up for him. And in this memory, he was a very advanced kind of kid. And so he was young to be drinking out of a glass, not a sippy cup, okay? And he's sitting at his little kid's table in the dining room, and his dad comes home from work, and he's a good dad. Dad comes home from work, he has his little milk glass and his cookies, and Dad comes home, puts his papers on the desk, and guess what happened the next second? Over goes the milk on the papers, and guess what Dad does? He's a good dad. You're such a baby, you shouldn't even be drinking out of a glass. You should have a sippy cup. What's the matter with you? Couldn't you see? Now, we know that the father is a good, this happened to be a good father. But at that moment, he's thinking, my papers are all ruined. I just had a, whatever he had to do in his head. At that moment, this little boy said, there's something really wrong with me. Now, his dad didn't mean to do that. But this little kid that I'm working with decided there's something inherently wrong with me. I'm never going to be, and maybe the dad even says, you'll never be good enough. You're never going to do it right. He was just angry. Now, if it only happened one time, it probably could be corrected if the dad apologized and it didn't happen. But that was such a significant emotional event. So what, now, how do we fix that? So I said to him, tell me a little bit about your dad. And he said, you know, his dad was a pretty good guy. I said, well, what did your dad need? Now, this is the man him, who has a lot more information than the baby him. What did your dad need in that event that would have made it so much better for that little boy? And what do you think he said? Anybody have an idea what that dad might have needed? Throw it out, come on. What did that dad who was screaming and yelling need?
A hug.
He could have used a hug, but what does a hug signify?
Acceptance?
Yes. What else did that dad need? I'm not talking about the little boy, the dad. Patience. The knowledge that this is a very advanced kid to be drinking out of a cup at 1.5 years old. That the papers he put on the desk actually didn't get ruined and everything was going to be all right. All of those. That this is a significant moment in his son's life, and what he is doing to the son right there is going to really affect him the rest of his life. So what we did is we imagined, just for a moment, and remember, you're not in trance right now, so it sounds a little different, it feels different. We imagined that this beautiful light of patience was floating into the dad. And as the light of patience filled him up, I think we used a purple light, I can't remember what color. As the light of patience filled up this dad, we figured out we needed something more. He needed to know that he was going to survive this at work, because evidently the dad went on to be a very successful lawyer. So evidently this ruining of his papers wasn't the end of the world. So we gave the dad some information that this isn't going to ruin his job forever. As the light is floating through him, we had it flow out of Dad's body. The dad's face changed, and he said, okay, here's a rag, let's clean it up. The little boy, this seems so amazing when I talk to you cognitively, but when you're in trance, that little boy who's here was like, oh, okay, it was a mistake, we could clean it up. And he and Dad cleaned up the mess. Then, because it's like we took the knot at the end of the pearls, we were able to actually now, I'm simplifying because we had to go back a lot of times to do this, but we were able to then take the string out of all those pearls of I'm not good enough, and they just dropped away. Now when we get to here, we can work cognitively and behaviorally to just fix the rest of the problem. I have to tell you that this man, bless you, ended up being a ship captain. Now, if you know anything about that, you have to take these tests that you have to memorize 1 million pieces of information. This was a man who couldn't drive. Now, it didn't happen in one session, but I remember when he celebrated, it was Christmas time, and he took the speed line. That was one of his first things he did. He took the speed line to Philadelphia. And he came back. Now, it's funny. He came back with a scarf for me. He said, Audrey, this is to celebrate I was able to get on the speed line. I went, I got off, I went and bought the scarf, and I came back, and that was his first breakthrough. Now he's a ship captain. So I'm simplifying, but that's the first thing we do. Okay, so on the cognitive level, what you were saying is correct. The thoughts we have are going to either shoot the anxiety up, or what you asked for, or bring down. Somebody asked for how to stop the mind from racing, or bring it down. So, if you can give me an example of a racing mind, I'll probably be able to, and I'm sure a lot of people have that same thing. And if you could give me an example of like what things are going through your mind when it's racing.
Just events of the day. And then when you touch on the events of the day, you start thinking, how are they going to affect tomorrow?
So again, with the creative brain, you go out and create negative scenarios, correct?
You do. And it is the imagination that starts running away with you.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is, because the mind and the body are interconnected, what you think, the unconscious mind accepts it as real. It starts preparing you for flight or fight. And once those chemicals start going around, then you start with more thoughts, and it's a terrible vicious cycle. Okay, so one technique, let me find my stop technique. Where is it? There we go. Okay, if you think of the word stop, this is a cognitive behavioral hypnotic technique that you'll use with yourself. So all of you, I want you to think of a situation where you had anxiety about something, okay? Everyone have one of those? Doesn't have to be a big event, it would be small. The first step is you stop whatever you're doing. Now, if you want the old-fashioned method, you put a rubber band around your wrist, you snap it. Why do you snap it? Because it brings you back to the present. In the present second, there is no anxiety. Oh, that one's gone. Oh, that one's gone. It's only in the future or the past that we create anxiety. Does anybody not believe that? Usually people will say, no, Audrey, isn't it? Okay, so you agree? So we stop whatever you're doing, snap the rubber band, bring you back to the present. The second step is you take a moment to breathe. Okay? Now the breath I recommend in this technique is different from the breath on my anxietycontrolcenter.com website. If you've gone to the website, there is a little video guide, about 7 minutes, of teaching you how to do what we call the Ha breath. So it's anxietycontrolcenter.com/stress-breath if you want that video. This breath is different. This breath you stop, snap, and you count. It's about a 30-second count. On the inhale, you go 1, 2, and you just keep counting in and out till you get to 30. Okay. Breathing is always the way you signal your body things are going to be okay. No more adrenaline needed. The breath, changing the breathing pattern is so powerful. Okay. As you've done your breathing, now you take an opportunity to open your mind to where you're feeling the symptoms in your body. Not everybody is aware of where they feel things. It's important to start paying attention to where. For a person who has anger, they may feel it in their hands, or they may feel it a clenching of the chest. Another person might feel sadness in the chest. Many people feel anxiety in the stomach area. That's why I treat irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's, because a lot of people put their stress there. It's important to pay attention to where you keep your emotions in your body, because that will tell us how to fix that, because when I work with you, I know what to do with that. But for you, many people who have anxiety put everything in the anxiety basket. Everything's anxiety. You see a friend who you haven't seen for 10 years coming down the street, and your heart starts to pound. Oh my God, I'm having an anxiety attack. No, you're having excitement. So we have to start paying attention. Sadness, hurt, fear, unfair, they're held in different parts. The last step of that is pay attention to your emotions. S-T-O-P. Pay attention to the emotions. Now I want to give you the trick. If you say, why is this happening? It's going to give you negative thoughts. Because you have fear of bridges. What's the matter with you? It will give you the wrong thing. But if you change one word, instead of why, you're going to ask the question, I'm curious what this feeling is about. And you really can do that, even with the bridge. I'm really curious what this is really about. When you do that, you're opening up the connection to your inner mind, the unconscious part of your mind. And that's where the answers are to the problems. So if you hear yourself going, why? Stop, change it to, I'm wondering what this is about. I do a workshop every summer with the screenwriters in Costa Rica. And, you know, they work with the who, what, when, where, why. I tell them throw away the why. And the person who does the screenwriting courses is exactly what I tell my students. So it's interesting that we do the same thing for writing as we would do for emotions. Now, you know, I didn't even introduce myself, so let me just tell you who I am. I'm Audrey Sussman. I'm the director of the Anxiety Control Center. I've been doing this for 30 years. I am also a hypnotherapist. Let me tell you why I became what I am. I used to have panic disorder. Mine was bridges and driving. I even had such panic disorder that, you know those little overpasses that go over 295? Just a little tiny overpass. Maybe from there, I would wait until everybody was over and zoom across the bridge. I remember when I cured my panic disorder, I got over that little overpass and I went, oh my God, I forgot to worry. It was so miraculous. So a long time ago, when I first started doing this, I didn't even know I had panic disorder. I never heard of it. I thought everyone had these feelings, they just handled it better. I really didn't know that everybody wasn't afraid in the car. I just thought, of course, everybody handles it better than me. As I figured out, because I became a therapist, of course, and people started coming to me with the same problems I had, I figured, oh, gee whiz, I have a condition. Okay, that's where my research of panic started, because you treat panic differently than pretty much any other issue. It has to be treated differently. So the first thing, of course, I used cognitive and behavioral skills, the rubber band snap, changing the thoughts, and, you know, they work. But unfortunately, they don't fix the problem. Why? Because there's two parts of the mind. There's the conscious, what we're aware of, and then there's the unconscious part of the mind that is everything else. To make this very clear. If you use a computer, everybody here use computers? What's on the screen, you would agree, is a very small amount of what's in the memory and programming, yes? So I'll give you a little example. So I was working on my website, did a great post, put some stuff up, and every time I went to look at it, everything kept jumping around. And I was like, so I spent about 45 minutes fixing it again, and I get back and something else was jumping around. So I called my son, who I always call when I'm having a problem, and he said, Mom, did you go into the HTML? I said, what's HTML? I didn't even know what that was. He said, it's the language in the back, the programming. You go to the HTML and you look and see what... Now, I couldn't do it because I didn't understand how to do that. I understand the brain, I don't understand the computer. So he came over, and in 3 seconds he said, oh, here's the problem. It's telling you to leave 3 spaces. He took out that writing, that program, and all of a sudden my screen is working. When we try to work cognitively, it's like trying to fix the computer screen without fixing the program. So the reason that we use hypnosis, and the reason I added that to my program, is because unless we fix the problem at the root, where it really is, we're going to have to keep fixing it and fixing it and fixing it, because it's going to keep coming back. It's a glitch. So the second thing I added after that was classical hypnosis, which we're going to do a little piece today. My clients are like so happy. Oh, Audrey, this is great. I feel so relaxed. This is wonderful, which is miraculous because people with anxiety typically can't relax. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. only thing is, they had to keep coming to see me every 2 weeks for a refresher. Or they had to keep listening to the CDs I'd make them. Problem, as soon as they start getting better, they stop using the CDs. The panic would come back. Well, it's very nice for a very full practice, but it wasn't nice for me because I don't feel satisfied unless people get better. So then I found out about this other form of hypnosis, which is called Ericksonian hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, which has made the difference when I added that to the cognitive and behavioral skills. Now people are actually able to get rid of their panic. Okay, now, we've been all sitting for a little bit. So what I'm going to have you do is I want to show you how to reprogram a little thing you don't even know you have. So I'm going to ask everybody to